G'day, today we're going to install this PGH Stone. Don't need a lot of experience to install it, but following our step-by-step guide will help you in the process, and once you get going, you'll be fine. First of all, you need to plant it and get our tools ready.
Adhesive. Make sure your adhesive is suitable for large format and natural stone. The paddle mixer, a must use when mixing the glue for your stonework. Trowels for applying glue and for scraping off excess glue. The dry cutting saw, you can also use a wet saw or a grinder. A wet saw generally will keep the dust down to a minimum, so you still need to use your PPE. A grinder, you will also need to attach a vacuum to the grinder to eliminate any dust into the atmosphere.
So this is what we're going to do today. First thing we need to do is identify any contaminants on the wall, such as water, oil, paint, dust. Make sure it's clean, dry, and good to go. A couple of things to remember: you can lay on brick, block, cement sheeting is great also. You just cannot lay on blue board. Blue board is layered and it can rip the stone off the wall over time. First up, sourcing our stone. You need to get a few boxes of stone, not one or two. You need a few because there's different variations of colour, size and shape. So get a few boxes, start laying them out on a table, somewhere where you can see everything you've got, so you can see which pieces have some colour in it, which pieces don't, and how many small pieces you've got versus large pieces. That is your first step.
Make sure the consistency of your glue is not too wet. You want it right in that sweet spot between wet and dry. So when you hold it upside down, it doesn't fall off your trowels. It's generally a good indicator.
Okay, so now it's time to put some stone on the wall. Generally, we'll go for something that's got a bit of a flat edge to it, something like that. So if it's sitting on a floor, it's got something to sit on and it's a nicer finish across the bottom. So this guy we'll go with. So we'll dust off any excess dust on there, get our glue, and make sure we cover the entire piece of stone. Not little dabs like that. You need to work it into the stone. Make sure it gets right over everything, a decent amount. You don't need to overdo it, but just make sure it's all covered. We're going to start down in this corner here. We always start at the bottom, close to the edge where you're going to finish. Give it a little tap. Always work off the last piece we've put in and work across the bottom before we go up. So this guy here works quite well. Nice tight joint in there. So I can actually go ahead and glue that one on. Again, plenty of glue covering the whole piece of stone. Give her a tap against the wall, joint's nice and tight. Here's where it gets a bit tricky. I need to think about which piece I'm going to put in next, as well as working across the bottom. So I could put a piece in here, or I could put a smaller piece in here to provide some support, and then put a larger piece above it. I'm going to find a smaller piece and then a larger piece, because that's going to make my life a little bit easier. So looking at it, something like that is probably going to work nicely. I want to trim this top section off, so I'll just mark it there and mark it there, and I'll go and I'll cut this top section off so it gives me a nice clean line down there for another good sized piece that I can put in on the wall. We're about to cut the stone. First up, we need to be safe. Respirator or dust mask, make sure you're not breathing anything in. Earmuffs, because it's going to be super loud. Proper safety glasses. And gloves. Okay, so we'll test and just make sure it fits before we do anything more. Beautiful. So we'll put some glue on that and install it. In there, give it a little tap. Perfect. Now it's time to find what's going to work next, which is going to be the tricky part. So we want to try a few. So I'll try this one, see if that'll work. If not, then I'll try a different one, a different shape, because depending on what I've got on the wall and is what's going to work with this best. Okay, I've found my piece for here, because he lines up nicely like that, and he basically follows that curve, so I'll just trim the bottom off so that this end lowers down and gives me a nice tight fit. So, in order to fill this void and try to fill something in there, we're better off finding a piece that sits nicely pretty much, and then instead of having a weird little cut in there, we cut from that point down to that point, creating one nice big solid piece in there. Sits perfect. But what I don't like is this little bit here. Makes it a bit hard to add something and creates a different line. So I'd probably also just trim a little bit off there. You don't need to. For me personally, that's what I would do. The offcuts that we have, you can use them later on, so keep them. Great for filling in little holes in your stonework as you go up, like this. Cut down there and discard this side, and that'll fill up this little hole in here so that you can put a bigger piece as you move along. Next up, we're going to use this little trowel known as a plasterer's trowel. This is great for when you're coming to the finish of your install to scrape all the excess dags of glue and things off the stone before giving it a decent clean tomorrow with some water and a bit of a scouring brush, if need be. So the glue will start drying by now, so be able to just give it a bit of a scrape. It'll come off just like that, nice and easy. So there you have it. Quite simple and easy install once you've got the basics down pat. And you can do this yourself and make your outdoor area or indoor fireplace even look amazing.